Do not cosplay Russia from Hetalia in the year 2012. That has been my TED Talk.
Good job.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sonic the Hedgehog, An Unfortunate History. Our panel that is about Sonic the Hedgehog and not cosplaying Russia from Hetalia in 2012. We are the foundation for the preservation of Gen Pokemon. I'm Max.
I'm Andrew.
And that's not the order I'm supposed to say that in. You can follow us on Twitter at 5th Gen, not PKMN. You cannot follow us on Blue Sky because, as I said earlier, we're not cool enough to have one of those. And honestly, I couldn't understand Mastodon. So we're stuck with this fucking hellscape. So before we start this panel, I think we need to know what you know about Sonic. Mostly because I don't know shit about Sonic and I need to figure it out real fucking quick because I have a panel on it right now. So, is this a Sonic the Hedgehog character? If yes, raise your hand. If no, keep your hand down. If you're gonna ask me some shit about two hands or raising your foot, you can get the fuck out. You're not smart, you're not clever, someone always fucking asks that. Keep them up. This is the whole panel. You're right, that is a Sonic the Hedgehog character. It's Dr. Eggman. Though, at this point, I feel like Elon Musk is a character of Eggman more than Eggman is a character of Elon Musk. It's been a weird reversal. I'm not into it.
All right. Is this a Sonic the Hedgehog character?
These people are so fucking bad at identifying Sonic characters. It's just like you two.
I mean, he's the superior Eggman.
Okay.
All right. We'll give him an easy one.
Next. Easy one. Is this a Sonic the Hedgehog character? No, it's not Embor. It's Big the Cat. Toru's a man of many lives. Big the Cat has 9. Of course, this is one of them. Though, of course, both of them are based on my OC character, Do Not Steal, Bigger the Catter. Who, I definitely draw sexually explicit comics of. Right?
Yeah, we're going to move on to the next one.
Yeah, okay, so this is Sonic the Hedgehog character. Yeah, like 7 of you get it. Yes, the Sailor Moon AMV for crawling in my skin is Shadow the Hedgehog. How did you not fucking get that? Oh no, I left it at home.
These people are bad.
Okay. Is pg&e the Sonic the Hedgehog character? Okay, which one is it? You know, so you can't say. You've been right every time. Which one is it? Okay, who else has a guess? Yes, it's Blaze the Cat. Blaze the Cat single-handedly burned my dad's house down. You fucking bitch. Huh? My brother was staying on my couch that night, and he lived in Santa Rosa.
You didn't anymore?
Nope. And that's how I adopted my brother. Anyway, is this a Sonic the Hedgehog character? Okay, here's the thing. If you're going to keep raising your hand, you have to be right once. Which Sonic the Hedgehog character is it? No!
Rouge the Sexual Awakening!
Yes!
Got it one.
Fucking nailed it! I would give you my pg&e swag, but I left it in the hotel room. Huh? No, it's a fan, so you can, you know, like, get the fire really going. So, anyway, now that we know how much you guys know about Sonic characters, we're going to talk about Sega. And Sega got, Pokemon's the right way to do that, right? So Sega got their start selling gambling machines to sailors. It's a really basic slide. And they were called service games because they're selling gambling machines to sailors. But at some point, the United States government decided they wanted to ban loot crates. So Sega had to stop selling gambling machines to sailors. But they were really into machines and sailors, so they just released a new video game cabinet, which was called the Periscope. Now, Periscope, it's, I mean, you look at it, you can figure out what the fuck you're doing here. You put your eyes in the thing, you look around, and you sink boats. And Periscope was big and bulky and technically impressive, and cost 25 cents to play. Which doesn't sound that impressive, but once Periscope came out, every other game, like cabinet maker, went, wait a minute, people fucking pay 25 cents to play these things? So 25 cents immediately became the standard cost for arcade cabinets. Before then, you could play them for like a nickel or something. So if you're upset about video game price inflation, don't blame the Sony for selling $70 PS5 games. Fucking blame Sega for the Periscope. That is why. Additionally, you can tell since you put your eyes in it and you have to like move around, this is basically the Virtual Boy. This is not the first time Sega will invent the Virtual Boy. So at this point, because Periscope was selling gangbusters, they decided to commit to the bit. And did what anyone would do in the 1980s that was making video games, and that was to release their own goddamn video game console. Because for some reason, everyone decided to just release a console in the third generation. It's just what you did. And the Sega SG-1000 was an amazing console that nobody fucking bought. And that did not deter Sega from just slapping OC Do Not Steal on the fucker. And just selling it goddamn everywhere. In fact, they even released a girl version. The first time girls were allowed to play video games. Before this, Pong was men only. And you know, it sold fine. The really impressive part of the Sega Master System was the attachment rate. For those of you who don't spend too much time on Wikipedia, the attachment rate for a video game console is how many average games it sells per console sold. So a common number would be like 8 to 10. The NES had an attachment rate of 8, so if you owned an NES, you probably owned 8 games. If you owned a Sega Master System, you probably owned 21 games. Which makes sense because they were all trash. You probably needed 21 to get the equivalent of about 8 NES games. And even though Nintendo did outsell it by an almost 3-to-1 margin, it did do well, you know, in Western Europe, Western Japan, and Brazil. It did great in Brazil. Sold 8 million fucking units in Brazil. It still sells 150,000 units a year in Brazil. So it's about 240 years off from finally beating the NES. And you're probably wondering, why the fuck did this sell so well in Brazil? And that's because Sega decided to market the console internationally using Tonka. And you know what Tonka and Brazil have in common? An absolute hatred of rainforests. Just fuck those. So anyway, after that, Sega went, yeah, let's just make another video game console. So they released the Sega Genesis. And I mean, this is when it went gangbusters. I mean, with a release title such as Sonic the... Andrew.
Yes, Max?
You haven't said anything this whole panel. What the fuck is this game?
Well, it's where they got their obsession with furry things.
Yeah, so the Sega Genesis didn't launch with Sonic. This console wasn't a hit. It came out with fucking Altered Beast. Who here has played Altered Beast? What the fuck? Why?
It's an addicting game.
Okay, I call bullshit.
Okay, I understand why you played it.
It's not that bad. I didn't realize you.
No. His takes are exclusively wrong. Yeah. This was the launch title for the Sega Genesis.
Which was a boneheaded move, by the way.
Oh, duh. So, at some point, Sega decided to hire a competent person to market the Genesis, because I guess this is just what Tonka's into. So they hired Tom motherfucking Kolansky, who, I don't know, maybe I fucked his name up, I don't know. So this man sold Barbie dolls. And I know that doesn't sound particularly impressive because they're Barbie dolls. But back in the day, they were Barbie dolls. If you've noticed, old-timey dolls don't have tits. Barbie dolls have tits. That was a very weird thing for people to comprehend at the time. They would literally pick up the Barbie dolls and investigate them for other orifices. Like, are these anatomically correct? And it's like, no, she's an hourglass. I don't know what you expect. So he sold those. And I think we all know how fucking insane parents are. With any law passed by Florida this year. He sold those dolls to those fucking people. So he shows up at Sega and he's like, okay, so you're selling a $200 console with fucking Altered Beast. Sonic is the best game you have. So we're gonna slash the price to $150 since you're trying to compete with the NES. You know, beating up a child. And we're gonna include Sonic the Hedgehog, which is the point where we have to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog.
So, but
in a Sonic the Hedgehog panel. I'm upset too.
So how did Sega come up with Sonic? So we're going to talk about the conception of Sonic, something we promised to never image search, and you should probably never search it. Because
I'm looking for a spark in the eye of someone who's aroused at that. It's him. It's definitely him.
Was doing a great job. They had a fantastic poster child for their console in Mario. Oh, not that one. That one doesn't sound right. There we go. Yeah.
I'm really happy they like these gag slides because God, we have so fucking many of these this panel. No, you get the fuck out.
Man,
Thomas physically removed him. Unleash the crocodile. Yeah, I don't remember his name. I'm gonna be honest. Luabano.
You're not the kids. If you do drugs, then go to hell before you die.
Yeah.
Hell! Woo!
Anyways, Nintendo had a poster child for their console. It was what you saw when you went to go see their console, their games. It was kind of the first things you were introduced to, and when you were interested in this character, it made you interested in their console. Mario was great. Sega at the time didn't really have one. They had Alex the Kid. He's
I like
not
that, like there was a boo.
he wasn't cutting it.
Wait. How does somebody have an opinion on Alex the Kid?
I like Alex. It's just like Wish.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm stealing that joke, by the way.
Yeah, so Sega wasn't doing very well at this point. So they decided to do the opposite approach. So they just asked, what does Nintendo do? We do the opposite. Mario, pretty slow. We gotta go fast. Nintendo uses 2 buttons? We can do it with 1. Because we all know nobody uses more than 1 button. That's why the paint rubbed off your W key.
From lack of use.
All right, and then Mario's red. All right, so we have to be blue with a crippling cookie addiction. Mario, very wholesome. Sora character has to be edgy as shit. Mario fights animals in fisticuffs, and Sonic hurts them in a much more roundabout way. The Mario movie was horrible, and the Sonic movie was somehow worse, but then came out negative and went positive. I don't know how it worked, but it was.
I don't disagree. That is Know the Room.
Anyways, Mario, classic. Sonic dated the moment he came out. And of course, the original design was, their concept was take Mickey Mouse, put Felix the cat's head on it. That was their basic concept. They named him Mr. Needlemouse, and they had fantastic ideas like giving him a human girlfriend, because we all know that's what Sonic fans want out of this genre. But then they, of course, they started showing this around other departments in Sega, such as Sega of America, and someone said that this would never work. They had to capture American audiences, and to do so, they suggested things like make him a normal hedgehog from Nebraska, join the local track team, and help old ladies knitting with his spines. And then one day, his father falls in a radioactive waste and dies. I don't know why Sega of Japan didn't take up these ideas.
It's like the weird Joker situation. Like he's the son of the Joker.
Yeah, because clearly America knows how to do Sonic. And they knew about this, so they called back to this when they had him do sports in the new movie. So, but When the games actually came out, it was classic. It was good. It was honestly pretty inventive. It was a new genre of platforming that really hadn't been done before. Generally, platforming is problem solving and kind of seeing what's going on.
Wait, I'm curious, why is everyone laughing at this? I'm curious. Well, yeah.
Because your genre really place you're still
Oh,
there.
I forgot I forgot that was still there. So, in the original version of this panel, the overarching joke was that like Sega was capitalism and Nintendo was communism or something. Other way around, probably, given that.
Yeah.
Anyway, fun part. The Master System version is a demake of the original Sonic the Hedgehog.
And it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
I don't like it.
The Master System can't run shit.
Thank you. At least someone understands.
But so Sega had the idea of do something different. So their idea was fast equals good. Going slow puts you on the lower path, which is honestly slower, harder, and makes you die more. So you're rewarded for going faster. But this leads in the second half. Learning through repetition, not through observation. Because you're moving fast, you don't see things in time, so you're going to miss jumps, you're going to barrel into spikes, you're going to die in that pit. But you're going to learn from it, and you're going to make that like 10 tries later. And then you get kind of motion, and then you actually feel like you're going fast, which was something that you really didn't see out of a lot of games, aside from like racing games in that time. And even then, it was like the top-down. It really wasn't fast. This was the side-scroll. It was very interesting. But they didn't really understand how to do a plot. They just did the standard boilerplate of bad guy, cute animals, put him in a robot, magic stones of some kind. It wasn't really inventive. So then they came to Sonic 2. They're like, hey, we had a good idea.
We did that.
Let's milk it some more. And it didn't reinvent the formula at all. It just added a second playable character in Ninetales. And added the spin dash so you could attack things while you were moving. Yeah, that was pretty much the only difference. It's
Debatable.
You mean they added an extra talisman?
there you go. But this sold 6 million units, second only to the first game. So it was also one of the first games that had a global release from a Japanese company for some reason. Also, I'm not kidding, they named him Tails in America because us Americans couldn't handle the miles per hour joke in his name, Miles per Hour. Americans are weird about strange about the weirdest things.
Puns.
All right, and then we had Sonic 3, somehow released in America before Japan on this one.
We did it!
Go America!
America! America! Jesus Christ, we have some fucking Proud Boys.
So it was designed in 2 parts, and the soundtrack was going to be made with a certain famous musician that turned out to be noted child diddler. Oh, nope, sorry. Oh, still no. Yeehaw, not that one. Nope. I'm sure it's one of these.
Those were allegations. Allegations.
Ah, yes. There we go. Yes, Michael Jackson did the music for Sonic 3. They were deep into production when the accusations started coming out, so they decided to redo all of the music. And by that, they just stripped out his name and kept it all. The classic OC Do Not Steal.
They've done that like 6 times now.
Sega's really good at that. But this is where Sonic 3 actually started to expand on the formula. They made larger levels, they added a story. Funny enough, the game started development as a 3D game, which later got cut and became Sonic 3D Blast, which was not a blast. With the 3D getting cut, they stuck to what they knew, which was the 2D side-scroller, which was cut again because they ran out of development time. So they made the first game into Sonic 3, and the other half became Knuckles. It introduced Knuckles, who could show us the way. And to allow for this, they came out with a special lock-on adapter because they felt the Game Genie was getting too much of the market. It was built to be backwards compatible with the older Sonic games. You could plug in like Sonic 3, Sonic 2, and it would place characters with Knuckles. It would add Knuckles to the games. But during development, they asked the question, what happens if someone plugs in a game that isn't Sonic to this thing?
No one would ever do that, Andrew.
So they got to replace something with Knuckles. Toe Jam and Earl? No, Toe Jam and Knuckles. Earthworm Jim? Earthworm Knuckles. They made it work with every Genesis game, including VR chat.
And then, you know, because fuck it, why not? they decided to rip off of the Mario like spin-off games. So we got Tails and the Music Maker, which is just one of the sub-games of Mario Paint. But it was so bad they couldn't even release it for a real Sega console. So it came out for the PICO, which is just an adventure book masquerading as a video game. The benefit is, the PICO's for children, and people who play Sonic games have the emotional maturity of a child. This is perfect. Wow, the lowest hanging fruit. Yeah, it's educational. They had them at my daycare as a kid.
They did?
Yeah.
Are you joking?
That's how fucking old I am.
So, anyways,
I'm so sorry.
Sega saw the success of their character in Sonic, so they started doing the classic milking for profit and started shoving him into everything. Max, what do you think the best way to make money off of a character in the 90s is?
Sugar, cereal, and Saturday morning cartoons.
Damn straight.
Hell yeah!
First one being The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. We're pretty sure this was the first result of the CIA experimenting with LSD, because boy did they need to turn down that dosage. Because you had to be on some serious drugs to write this. Because the entire show was a giant acid trip. Wild, nonsensical backgrounds to storylines that made no sense. I mean, just look what's going on here. Strange things happen.
This was Tails going into the toxic sludge of Sonic's dad trying to save him.
Yeah. So we got Sonic getting attracted to a robot. I mean, pretty standard. Eggman joining the German Air Corps just in time for World War I. Yeah, I can't. And Sonic becoming Pharaoh. I can't make this shit up.
God, I didn't know Sonic was in fucking Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, so we're pretty sure whoever wrote this was definitely high, because you had to be high on something for this. Also, they decided the best person to voice Sonic was Jaleel White, aka Steve Urkel, because when you think fast, cool, edgy, you think Steve Urkel? I mean, it did somehow work, but I think that's because we didn't have another option.
No, that was a clear the room situation.
So, the one positive about them was they did have the nice PSA at the end of every episode giving us important knowledge. Like, don't shove your hand in a blender. Look at least one way when crossing the freeway. Or
What's the freeway? One way's fine.
Yeah, if the dog's mouth is foaming, make sure your little brother pets it first. And then the next year came out with Sonic the Hedgehog. We think the drugs were finally out of their system because this was a show that actually had a plot. The games at the time really didn't have the plot. It was the standard boilerplate. So this really flushed it out. It gave a world, gave a reason for Eggman to be fought against, like why they were fighting against with the robots, the invasion, turning people into robots. It was a very interesting future tech dystopia.
So wait, he was doing Neuralink.
Yeah, which was still pretty interesting for the time in a way that kids could enjoy. And it did a good job in more than just inspiring furries. It managed to rank number 9 on all Saturday morning cartoon shows for the area. In fact, this world concept was so popular, the comic books just picked it up and ran with it. They didn't change anything. They just literally took that world, those characters, and just kept it going.
You're saying they ran with it.
Yeah. I'm glad you caught that. Funny enough, this is by the Archie people. Yeah, the guy with the redhead who can't figure out women. They were the ones writing Sonic, and they kept him going for over 290 issues. It was, in fact, they had the world record for the longest-running franchise-based comic series. At 290 episodes, Sega decided to transfer the rights to a new comic company, so it restarted, and they didn't have to keep track of their old lore. But it was still pretty good. And then we had Sonic Underground. They went back on the drugs. Because they definitely doubled down on the first time.
This is just a prequel to Bocchi the Rock.
But it's basically a Star Wars ripoff with music replacing the Force. It's triplets separated at birth, magic powers tying them together, power of hard rock to save the world. Yeah, who comes up with this stuff? At least this inspired things like Led Zeppelin, by which I mean the name, not the music, because this was a dumpster fire.
So, why were we talking about, this is a panel about Sega, Andrew. Get it together. Just because it says Sonic on it. So, with Sonic being an international sensation, how did that do for Sega Genesis sales? Fine, honestly. So, as you can tell, the Sega within a month, the Super Famicom caught up with the Genesis's 2-year lead. And then Sega went, yeah, we should fucking sell Sonic games with this thing. And they were able to keep pace. If you notice, This is outside of Japan. Inside of Japan, it was not as good for Sega. Sega was outdone by the fucking TurboGrafx 16.
Oh my God.
A console that 4 of you seem to recognize existed. Because it's the TurboGrafx 16. It was developed by Hudson Soft, the people who made fucking Bomberman. They lost to Bomberman. And Sega, again, is a tentatively Japanese company, so they're not happy about this, and it's going to play out a lot in the next several decisions they make. Like this one. So, with the Genesis doing fucking great, Sega wants to milk that cow for all it's worth. They've never had a success before. So, at some point in the development, like post-development of the Genesis, they were working on the Saturn, which Genesis is a 16-bit console. The Saturn is a 32-bit. At some point, they're like, 64. At some point, they were like, we should make a 32-bit console. And why? So quickly they realized, well, this console would only be on the market a year or two before it's outdated. But they still liked the idea enough to release the 32X, which when applied to a Sega Genesis looks much like this. The 32X sold pretty well on launch in America and then didn't move another goddamn unit. And this is primarily because by the time it released in America, the Sega Saturn was already out in Japan. And why the fuck are you gonna buy a $200 add-on for your console to make it a little bit better when a new console's coming out in less than a year? Next is the Sega CD. Why? You're excited every time. And it's
Sega CD, I'm sorry.
You want one or you own one? Wait, you want? Yeah, I own one too. Good fucking job. I'm so proud of you. So the Sega CDs hold like a big gimmick in early 90s gaming was having like live video cutscenes in games, which could only be done on CD-ROMs. So that's like why Night Trap is a thing. So this was for Night Trap, and you could also play CDs on it. So honestly, not the worst addition, and when applied to a Sega Genesis, it looks like this. Next, we have Sega VR. Now, Tom Kalanske met with the developers of this VR. He used it and went, wow, this is fucking trash. And then there was no more Sega VR. Would you care to guess what happened to those people?
They died.
They made the Virtual Boy. This is the second time Sega invented the Virtual Boy. There are no more times. They also released a karaoke add-on because, you know, Japan. Yeah, of course you don't. It's a Japanese-only thing. It's a karaoke add-on for a Sega Genesis. They also released the Tetra Drive, which is a fully functioning computer / Sega Genesis. It released in 1991, and it was $1,100. So, you know, and in today's money, that's a lot more. But on the market, I don't know, what is it, 80,000, 90? I mean, I could Google it, but that's too much work. What am I going to do, homework for these fucking panels? So this is what a Sega Genesis looks like with all of the shit on it. Honestly, it reminds me of one of those like custom-built Sears homes where you just order the parts in a box and they just send it. And you're like, yeah, just add a mezzanine. Cool. Yeah, you could order. Yeah, dude, the 1920s were a wild time. And we all know how mail order houses worked for Sears. And I mean, at some point, you know, there's aspiring creatives or, you know, just fucking 90s shit posters, and they do this to the Sega Genesis. And you know what that looks like? I had to do two.
It wasn't even a Genesis, it was a Mega Drive.
You're a Mega Drive. That.
Over here.
There is so much to say about the Saturn. I could do a whole fucking panel on the Saturn. I'm not. I'd love to. So let's start with how Sega fucked up Project Reality. You know, the thing that makes the N64 go vroom. So Tom Kalinske, noted hero. At this point, I think we can all agree he's a hero. Except no, he unleashed Sonic. Fuck him. He's a piece of shit. So he met with the Project Reality people, and he was like, "This shit's really cool. You guys should make the Saturn." So he like kind of started getting a contract going, and then he met with Sega of Japan. He's like, "I met some great developers. They can make us like a really good video game console." And Sega's like, "Well, what country are they from?" And he's like, "America." And they're like, "No fucking deal." So Tom Kalinske gave them Nintendo's number. Because, I mean, at that fucking point, the Sega Saturn is like two discrete CPUs running fucking polygons instead of triangles. That thing is a goddamn mess. Give up. Next, there was the brief flirtation between Sega and Sony. They were going to make a console together to fight Nintendo. And then Sega realized that the contract they made was actually fucking awful for them. So they backed out, making them the second video game developer to tell Sony to fuck off. And unlike Nintendo, Sony was much more successful at absolutely murdering the shit out of them. And, no, Nintendo clearly wasn't. They're still alive right now. Well, chronologically here.
I thought you were referring to like how the PlayStation like absolutely bodied both Sega and Nintendo.
That is, that's the console wars panel we go over a little bit more. And this is also what the Saturn controller looked like. So like... So anyway, then the Sega Saturn comes out. And how would you... Some of you know the answer to this question. But to those of you who don't, how would you release a video game console in the 90s? What would you do?
Make a Sonic game for it.
No, we haven't. No. We haven't answered the Sonic question yet. This isn't a Sonic panel. Remember, this is about Sega. Whoever said, you're right. You would release it as a surprise.
Oh, wow.
The Sega Saturn had a surprise launch 6 months before its scheduled launch date. Their E3 speech was, "Hey guys, you can just buy it right now. I don't fucking care."
Yeah.
So it came out. It wasn't carried at most stores because they didn't have any products. KB Toys boycotted them for the remainder. And yeah, and it had no games coming out because it was only the Sega developed games were coming out. Everything else wasn't launching for at least 6 more months. So anyway, that went really well. But, you know, at least there was a Sonic game for it, right?
Yeah, about that. There actually was one. Sonic.
Yeah! Nailed it!
Totally came out. Wasn't a fever dream I had years ago. Those media outlets, they were definitely lying to you because they were having so much fun playing it. It was clearly a fun, non-buggy game, just like the rest of the Sonic games.
At which point, we get the Sega Dreamcast. Now, the Sega Dreamcast is remarkable for how little Sega fucked it up. While graphically not particularly competitive with Gen 9 consoles, was still fine. Its price point upon launch was $200, which was cheap. It ran on discs. It had a modem. You could play online. You could download shit. It was pretty cool. It had the weird UMDs, which I don't fucking understand and never will. But we're not fucking there yet. Do you see Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the screen? No, you fucking don't. We're not there yet. The problem with the Sega Dream, first of all, Sega of Japan wanted it to include a Sega Saturn inside of it. So Sega of Japan's plan was to sell it for $400, and it was a Dreamcast Saturn combo. And like, who the fuck's gonna buy that? No one. America won. We did it. USA. USA. You fucking fascists.
USA!
It's so easy.
It really is.
Do you guys want to go have a nice tour of the Capitol?
There you go.
Anyway, it sold 10 million units and then fucking died in the crib because the PS2 was coming out in a year, and why buy the Dreamcast when you can just wait a year and get the PS2? I mean, that thing was a fucking DVD player, and no one had those yet. So, at this point...
We finished talking about the consoles. Now we can talk about the
Wait,
Sonic
I don't
games.
have any more to say. Fuck.
They came out on those consoles. Yeah,
I have to go in
Sega.
the audience now. God damn
You know,
it.
Max, you have more slides.
Oh, good.
But anyways, Sega was very excited with 3 dimensions. They had all new frontiers to expand with Sonic, and they started out with Sonic Adventure in the Dreamcast. And I quote, with the new game generation, they wanted to make everything fresh with new styles, new edgy designs. Yeah, we can see how well that worked out. And they had to make, because new generation, they wanted to make new inventive game experiences. So they decided on fishing. Because when I buy a game about Sonic the Hedgehog, the blue blur, you know, gotta go fast, I want to sit down and go fishing. I heard that they only put this in there because some developer had got a fully flushed out fishing rod working in engine, and they're just like, yeah, that works great, let's make part of the game about it.
I had fucking bass fishing for the Dreamcast. You didn't need to put it in there. You could just buy bass fishing.
Fishing not exciting enough for you? Oh, don't worry.
No, it fucking isn't.
We put a shooter in here too.
Thank God.
Because no, people don't want to run fast. That's not what Sonic's about.
Hey. If I learned anything from elementary school, that's the only way to get away from bullets.
All right, Max.
It's always too soon. That's the point. Anyway, then Sonic Adventure 2 came out. Really? Okay, sure, it had like a Metacritic of 89. But I think we can all agree that at this point, the only good thing about that game is City Escape and the Chow Garden. No, just City Escape and the Chow Garden. Pumpkin Hill sucks. Pumpkin pie is the worst pie. You're fucking wrong. This game is at best a 69 nice at this point. We only liked it because we were just so desperate.
Yeah, Sega just decided
You're
to
making levels up.
Yeah, Sega decided to just continue kind of doubling down on the not doing the Sonic thing with Sonic Heroes, where they're like, oh, let's make you play 3 characters at the same time. Yeah, the rumored 5th team was going to be your dad and his 2 coworkers. At this point, everyone was just included. They just couldn't stop making OCs for this. They didn't really expand on the formula, too. It's just, just put people in, they do things, they smash things, they fly. We don't want you to go fast.
Hey man, but then they really expanded the formula. They gave the hedgehog a gun. You didn't have to run from the bullets in the school. God damn it, I'm not making that joke.
All right.
Hey, it had non-linear storytelling, and my friend played it his entire birthday instead of hanging out with us.
Hallmarks.
Oh, he fucking loved Shadow. Get the fuck out. I don't know how many times I've told you to leave at this point, but I'm telling you again.
Not even wrong.
I'm still, honestly, like with this discourse, I'm surprised you've survived this long, especially, again, because you're wearing a red shirt.
All right, so anyways, moving on. We, of course, talk about Sonic 06 next, which I feel like talking about is a bad idea because,
God
whoops.
damn it, Andrew!
Sorry, Max, it's just so buggy.
Even talking about it bricked my fucking...
I mean, people would agree if they weren't too busy clipping into the floor. They didn't understand collision, and they wanted more relationships with human women. Why? They hadn't gotten rid of that. All right, well then finally next we get something good.
Altered Beast 2?
Yeah, where they finally gave us the daytime levels, running fast as Sonic, no other characters. Yes, this is what we want. But wait, nighttime levels that are slow beat 'em ups that take over an hour to beat a single normal mission?
I sure hope a jazz band.
No, none of this is good. None of this is what people want.
And then... I don't even think I need to say anything here. So, I mean, at this point, that is the credibility of the Sonic franchise, I think. And I wouldn't blame you for going, yeah, I'm not fucking buying another one of these. Even if your friend Tyler keeps going, hey Max, I swear the next Sonic game is good. It fucking isn't going to be. We've seen the rating levels of Sonic games over time. You can tell when I made this panel. But then they did the worst thing imaginable. They gave power to the fans. And for some fucking reason it worked.
They just managed to pick the fan who's obsessed with the going fast part.
They found the one good Sonic fan. And then we found the billion bad Sonic fans.
Yeah, so they decided they needed to recoup some losses. So they made something that they knew their fan base...
You mean recoup some negative credibility?
Yeah, so they made what they knew their fans couldn't resist. Yes, a fucking furry generator. Yeah, because they knew their fans didn't need money in their wallet. They just needed to hand them a Sega. And then we got other things like the new movies. I mean, you can forget about most of Sonic, but you've seen these movies. They're not bad. But do you know why they're not bad? It's not Sonic. The second movie has like 10% Sonic, 90% Eggman. These movies were about Jim Carrey being silly, and we loved it.
I don't know, though. I had some really I mean, I didn't like these movies, I'll be honest, but I had some really conflicting opinions on Sonic 2, specifically that they made me want to fuck Knuckles the Echidna. Because, like, I mean, it's Idris fucking Elba. What are you gonna do, not want to fuck Knuckles the Echidna?
And then the most recent entry in the game, of course, Breath of the Sonic, because it took them 5 years to copy Breath of the Wild when Genshin Impact did in 3. But really, if you've played through it, it's just a cheap copy. Like, there's puzzles spread out, a leveling system for no good reason, and the leveling's even based on the collectibles. And they just copied all the piano riffs. Like, and the final boss fight is a fucking QuickTime event with 3 button presses.
Wait, 3?
3. Yes!
Isn't Sonic all about one fucking button? Jesus Christ, this is the worst Sonic game.
Alright. And then,
one button! Not 3.
We're gonna briefly touch on...
We have a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna briefly touch on the next bit, which was the fandom. Because it's horrible, we're gonna just kind of speedrun it. There's some good things like Tails Gets Trolled featuring Wile E. Coyote, Doug, Trix Rabbit, Chester Cheetah, Cosmo, Darth Kermit, Knuckles.
And the idea that weed makes you smart.
Yeah, it got turned into a musical. But honestly, this fandom creates so much horrible shit, we don't want to talk about it. So honestly, it just needs to go away. Sonic keeps doing crossovers, and that's fine, but we need to stop this. But we can't, because if we get rid of Sonic, it's going to blow those fans to the wind. And they're going to go into all the other fandoms and make all those fandoms terrible. So we need to not do that. So let's end this with something a bit more positive.
What would you give this chili dog on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, clearly 7.8 out of 10.
Okay, so thank you all for being here. These are whatever. Come to our other panels. Tomorrow morning we have Waluigi time. Then we have Dio Did Nothing Wrong, convention stories, those are all Saturday. On Sunday we have Console Wars in the morning if you want to learn more about actual video game consoles. That is our only panel that is not entirely a shitpost. Why do we do that?
I don't know.
5th Gen is its Pokemon is at 3:30. Ash Can't Catch 'Em is at 4:30, and Anime Survivor is at 8:30. If you don't know what Anime Survivor is, just fucking go. It's the only thing I like doing at this point in my life, and it's terrible. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of your con. Hopefully it involves being in those rooms at those times.
Thank you for coming.